When humanity first entered the larger galaxy, nobody took them seriously. The stars were already filled with powerful civilizations, empires that had been flying between worlds for thousands of years. They had seen wars, alliances, and entire species rise and fall. To them, the arrival of humans was nothing special, just another young race reaching too far, too fast. When the first human ship crossed the edge of known space and made contact, the aliens watched with amusement. They called it a tiny metal shell with primitive engines. The ship's captain tried to speak with them, to offer peace and friendship, but the reply came only as laughter through the comm channels. One alien voice said, "You humans still burn your skies with fire and yet you dream of the stars?" The message was meant to humiliate, not to welcome. Still, the humans did not respond with anger. They listened, observed, and took notes. Every insult, every word of mockery, all were quietly remembered. On Earth, the people celebrated the first contact, not knowing how the galaxy truly saw them. Governments tried to form alliances to learn from the advanced species, but none of the great powers were interested. They called humanity the noisy newcomers. They said humans were too emotional, too impatient, and too unpredictable to be trusted with serious technology. But while the galaxy laughed, humanity worked. Scientists studied everything they could find. Engineers spent long nights improving old designs. Every space mission became more ambitious. From the moon to Mars, from Mars to Jupiter, humans pushed forward, building piece by piece, step by step. And yet every time a human diplomat entered the Galactic Council, they were met with cold stares and hidden smiles. The aliens spoke about peace and unity, but behind their words was mockery. They used humans for simple labor, small trade, and nothing more. They said Earth was a young world that should learn to obey. What none of them saw was that Earth had learned faster than anyone expected. Human curiosity became their greatest weapon. They copied what they saw, improved it, and mixed it with their own creativity. Where alien empires had become lazy, comfortable, and slow, humans were restless, always hungry to learn. Many alien races underestimated that. They thought progress came only from long history, not from determination. But determination was something humans had too much of. The more they were mocked, the harder they worked. In one corner of the moon, far from the reach of alien eyes, a secret base was built. It began as a research lab, small and quiet. Only a few people knew its true purpose. Supplies came in under false names. Data was hidden in coded transmissions. The project's real goal was known only to a handful of the most trusted people on Earth. Even among humans, there were doubts. Some said it was too risky to provoke the aliens. Others said humans should just follow the rules, trade peacefully, and stay quiet. But a few leaders thought differently. They believed respect could not be demanded. It had to be earned. So the secret work continued. While the galaxy laughed at human weakness deep beneath the moon's gray dust, something new was being born. Back in the Galactic Council, the aliens continued their debates. They spoke about controlling the Earth problem. Some suggested placing restrictions on human expansion. Others wanted to assign advisors to guide humanity. To them, Earth was like a child who had to be watched carefully. During those meetings, the human ambassador sat silently, listening. Every sarcastic comment, every arrogant smirk was stored in memory. When he finally stood to speak, his voice was calm but filled with quiet pride. "You see us as children," he said. "Maybe that's true. But children grow, and when they do, they often surprise their elders." The aliens only laughed louder. In the following years, humans focused less on talking and more on doing. Space stations grew in orbit. Mining colonies appeared on asteroids. The first interplanetary trade routes were opened, and slowly, humans began to understand how alien technology worked. They studied energy systems, shields, and propulsion. What they couldn't buy, they built from scratch. To the aliens, it all seemed harmless. They saw the small ships and old designs and thought humans were simply copying what they didn't understand. They didn't realize humanity was moving in silence, preparing for something that no one had ever seen before. One alien news channel even broadcast a story mocking human ships, showing them as weak, small, and outdated. "These Earth vessels are like toys," the announcer joked. "Fit for children, not warriors." The audience roared with laughter. Clips of the broadcast spread across hundreds of worlds. Humanity was the galaxy's favorite joke, but on Earth nobody was laughing. People watched that same broadcast with cold determination. Every insult added fuel to the fire. The scientists at the lunar base worked double shifts. New alloys were tested, metals that could bend light, absorb energy, and stay invisible even under heavy scans. Engineers whispered of a breakthrough, something the aliens wouldn't believe until they saw it. The first prototype was small, no bigger than a fighter craft. It could vanish from radar, from visual detection, even from magnetic sensors. When tested, it disappeared completely into space, only to reappear miles away. It was the first step toward something much greater. While that work continued, the rest of the galaxy stayed blind. Alien traders came and went, showing off their superior ships. Alien diplomats continued to treat humans as lesser beings. But under the surface, a quiet revolution was taking shape. There was a saying that spread among the workers at the lunar base. They laugh because they don't see. It became a silent motto, a reminder that one day, the galaxy would see what humanity was truly capable of. Years turned into decades. Generations of engineers came and went, each adding new ideas, refining old ones. Earth's technology jumped forward at an unbelievable pace. What began as imitation had become innovation. Humanity was no longer following alien footsteps. It was creating a new path. Still, to the outside galaxy, humans were just talkers. The council kept calling them impulsive dreamers, but the dream was already alive, hidden under the moon's shadow. The secret project had a name now. It was called Eclipse. The meaning was simple, something that blocks light, something that hides what others think they see. And just like its name, the project itself stayed hidden. Even within Earth's governments, few truly knew how powerful it had become. There were whispers of a massive structure, of engines that could fold light and silence all sensors. Some called it a myth. Others said it was a weapon that would change everything. The truth was somewhere in between. Humanity had built more than a ship. They had built a symbol, a message to the stars that Earth was not to be mocked anymore. At night, when the engineers looked up from the moon's surface, they could see Earth shining in the distance, a blue light surrounded by darkness. It reminded them what they were fighting for. Not power, not revenge, but respect, because deep down humans didn't want war. They wanted peace, but a peace built on equality, not pity. They wanted a seat at the table where decisions were made, not as servants, but as partners. The aliens had no idea that the balance of power was about to change. For them, humanity was still the same old story, loud, emotional, unpredictable. They didn't know that those same emotions, that same restless energy they mocked, were the very things that had kept humanity alive since the beginning. And so, the galaxy laughed. The council laughed. The traders laughed. But on the far side of the moon, where the sunlight never touched, something massive stirred in silence. Its surface shimmered like liquid glass. Its engines pulsed softly, almost alive. The humans working there stood back and watched as lights began to glow across the surface of their creation. They didn't cheer or speak. They only watched, and with quiet pride and calm hearts. One day soon the galaxy would see it. One day soon the laughter would stop, but not yet. For now, the warship slept hidden in the shadows, waiting for the moment when humanity would finally step forward and remind the universe that no one stays underestimated forever. The secret base on the far side of the moon had grown bigger than anyone had imagined. What began as a small lab hidden in the shadows had turned into a living city of engineers, scientists, and dreamers. They worked in silence, far from the eyes of the world. Every person there knew that what they were building would change humanity's place in the galaxy forever. The project had no public name, no record in any official database. People simply called it the work. It was more than work, though. It was a purpose, the kind that gave meaning to long nights and endless waiting. The first few years were the hardest. Supplies were short, funding was hidden under fake reports, and every shipment had to be disguised as something else. Sometimes people wondered if it was worth it. They could have joined the alien councils, lived under their protection, and avoided trouble. But deep inside, everyone knew the truth. Peace without respect was just another form of control. Humanity had to prove that it was more than what the galaxy believed. As the years passed, the project grew faster. The brightest minds from every nation joined quietly. Some left their families behind without ever explaining where they were going. They lived underground, surrounded by the hum of machines and the silence of the lunar dust above them. Every person who came there carried the same quiet fire, the wish to make humanity proud again. There were no grand speeches or flags. There were just tired faces, determined hearts, and a dream shared by all. They worked through failures that would have broken lesser people. Engines exploded. Circuits melted. Materials cracked under pressure. But each mistake became a lesson. Humans had always learned best through struggle, and this time was no different. The plan was simple but almost impossible. They wanted to create something that could hide from the most advanced alien scanners. A warship that could move unseen through the stars. Not to attack, but to remind the galaxy that humans were not to be mocked. Many thought cloaking was impossible. Aliens had tried it for centuries. Some came close, but their ships always left faint traces, tiny signs that could be detected. Humans studied all of it line by line, learning how and why those systems failed. Then they went beyond the books, thinking the way humans always did and differently. Instead of copying alien designs, they started using ideas that came from nature itself. One engineer studied the way octopuses could change their color to blend with the ocean. Another looked at how deep-sea fish produced light to disappear in dark waters. Piece by piece, a new kind of technology began to take shape, one that combined human creativity with natural inspiration. They tested small drones first. The first time it worked, everyone in the room went silent. The drone vanished completely from every scanner, every radar, even the human eye. It was there 1 second and gone the next. A few seconds later, it appeared again, hovering quietly as if it had been sleeping in the shadows. No one spoke. They just looked at each other, realizing what they had done. That success changed everything. Funding increased quietly. More experts were brought in under secret agreements. Factories on Earth started producing parts under coded names. Every nation contributed something, even those who didn't trust each other on the surface. For once in history, humans were united by one purpose. The work took years. They built and rebuilt hundreds of models. Each version was better than the last. The engines became silent, the hull absorbed light, and the ship's core used a new type of energy that left no trace behind. It was like crafting a ghost from metal and light. But the work wasn't just about building a ship. It was about building belief. Every person there started to see themselves differently. They no longer felt small compared to the aliens who had laughed at them. They felt proud, capable, and confident. They were doing what no one else in the galaxy had done. Outside the project, the world changed too. Humanity expanded deeper into space, building colonies on Mars, mining stations on the asteroids, and research bases around Jupiter. The aliens noticed, of course. They began to send patrols and spies to monitor human progress. Some of them even tried to offer help, pretending to be friendly. But the humans didn't fall for it. They had learned long ago that friendship offered with mockery wasn't real friendship at all. The Galactic Council continued to look down on Earth. During one meeting, an alien leader said, "The humans are spreading too fast. They will stumble soon. Let them burn their fuel. They will learn humility." Others agreed. They laughed again, just as they had always done. But their laughter was no longer as confident as before. Some of them had begun to sense that something had changed. Strange rumors started to spread among traders and mercenaries. They spoke about ships that vanished in space, about silent shadows moving between the stars, about human outposts that seemed to disappear from scanners and then reappear miles away. Most thought it was nonsense, but a few began to worry. The galaxy had seen many things, but never human silence. Humans were known for noise, for color, for emotion, not for quiet shadows. On the moon, the project had entered its final stage. The team had been working nonstop for months. The hangars were massive now, deep enough to hide an entire fleet. The ship itself stood in the middle like a sleeping giant. Its surface shimmered softly, changing shades like a living creature. It wasn't black or silver. It was everything and nothing at once. When you looked at it directly, your eyes slid away as if the brain refused to see it clearly. Every test went better than the last. The engines worked silently, the systems stayed invisible, and the ship's energy signature was 0. The first time they took it out into space, it passed right by an alien probe without triggering a single alarm. It was as if the ship didn't exist at all. The engineers watched the data screens with disbelief. They had done it. Humanity had created something no one else in the galaxy could match. The first truly cloaked warship. Word of the success spread quietly through the highest levels of Earth's leadership. Only a handful of people knew, but those who did were speechless. The project that had started as a desperate dream had turned into a miracle, and yet the humans didn't celebrate loudly. They knew what this meant. The galaxy was still laughing out there, still calling them weak. They had no idea that a shadow had been born, one that could end every joke with silence. The ship needed a name. The team decided to call it the Eclipse. It felt right. An eclipse hides light, confuses the eye, and changes everything for a brief, unforgettable moment. That's exactly what this ship would do. When the ship's engines roared to life for the first time, the entire base trembled. But the sound never reached space. It was muffled, contained, invisible. Outside there was only stillness. The eclipse rose slowly above the lunar dust, turned once toward Earth, and vanished into nothingness. It was gone, cloaked completely. For a long time, everyone just stood there in silence. Then the project leader whispered, "They will never see it coming." Those words echoed in every heart present. They weren't words of war. They were words of quiet satisfaction. Humanity had done something extraordinary, not out of hate, but out of pride. They didn't want to destroy anyone. They just wanted the galaxy to stop laughing. Meanwhile, in the Galactic Council chambers, alien diplomats were busy discussing how to control human expansion. None of them knew that at that very moment a cloaked warship was drifting quietly in the darkness above their own routes, watching them unseen. It didn't attack. It didn't send any signal. It just waited, observing, learning how alien fleets moved, how they communicated, how they thought. Every movement, every pattern was recorded, and somewhere deep inside that ship the humans aboard smiled. They were no longer the ones being observed. They were the observers now. The galaxy had laughed for too long. It had called Earth weak, noisy, and foolish. But those same humans had turned mockery into motivation, insults into inspiration, and doubt into strength. What was once considered impossible had become real. Humanity had built something powerful not through dominance but through patience. They had turned silence into their greatest weapon. As the eclipse floated through the darkness, its invisible hull shimmering softly, the humans aboard looked out into the endless stars. Somewhere out there, alien empires ruled proudly, unaware that a new shadow had entered their sky, a silent promise that the age of laughter was ending. And this time, when humanity spoke, the galaxy would listen. The eclipse had vanished into the silence of space, leaving no sign of its path, no reflection, no sound. From that day on, everything changed, though the galaxy didn't realize it yet. Humanity had stepped quietly into a new age. For the first time, humans possessed something no alien empire could understand. The eclipse wasn't just a warship. It was proof that humans could achieve what others thought impossible, but no one outside Earth knew it existed. Only a few leaders, scientists, and engineers had seen it rise from the moon's shadows and fade into nothing. The ship drifted through the void between stars, moving unseen, collecting data, recording every signal and movement from alien fleets. What it found was shocking. The galaxy wasn't united like people had believed. There were tensions, rivalries, and silent cold wars brewing between the great alien empires. Some fought for trade routes, others for territory, and some just to prove their dominance. While the powerful species argued among themselves, smaller civilizations suffered quietly. Trade was unfair. Taxes were forced. Planets rich in minerals were stripped clean, leaving behind only dust. To those who lived under alien rule, peace was just another word for control. Back on Earth, the news was full of stories about trade talks, cultural exchanges, and friendly gestures from alien ambassadors. The public was told that things were peaceful. But behind closed doors, the truth was different. The Galactic Council didn't see humans as equals. Every agreement came with hidden limits. Every treaty kept humanity under quiet supervision. The aliens allowed humans to explore certain zones, but only up to a point. Beyond those borders, signs were posted in bright symbols, restricted, for authorized species only. They claimed it was for safety, that those zones were unstable or dangerous. But the real reason was simple. They didn't want humans to see what lay beyond. Still, humans being what they are, curiosity always won. Explorers and scientists began to notice strange things near the edges of those forbidden zones. Unknown signals, sudden energy surges, shadows moving across the stars. Sometimes whole research ships vanished without explanation. The council said it was due to space storms or navigation errors, but the reports didn't add up. Something else was happening out there. The Eclipse's mission was to find out. Invisible and silent, the ship moved into those restricted zones. Its sensors recorded massive structures built by alien factions, stations armed like fortresses, fleets gathering for reasons unknown. They were preparing for something. Not war against each other, but something else entirely. One of the analysts aboard the ship said quietly, "They're planning to control the trade routes around Earth." It made sense. Humanity's rapid growth had made alien powers nervous. The more humans expanded, the more they became a threat to the balance of power. Soon after, alien patrols began appearing near human colonies. They claimed to be on peace missions, but everyone knew the truth. They were watching, mapping routes and measuring strength. Out in deep space, human miners working near Saturn's rings reported strange encounters. Bright alien ships would appear from nowhere, circle them slowly, then leave without a word. Sometimes the alien broadcast came with laughter, a cruel reminder of how they still saw humans. But this time, Earth didn't respond with anger or fear. They responded with silence, a silence filled with purpose. The eclipse continued to move between the shadows, recording everything. Every alien fleet position, every weapon test, every communication signal, all of it was stored and analyzed. Back on Earth, scientists and tacticians studied the data. Slowly, they began to see the full picture. The Galactic Council was not as powerful as it seemed. Its members distrusted each other. Some wanted to use humans for their own gain. Others wanted to destroy them before they became too advanced. The laughter that once echoed through the council chambers now sounded uncertain. One meeting changed everything. A group of alien leaders demanded that Earth reduce its shipbuilding activity. They said it was for the balance of peace. The human envoy, calm and polite, simply smiled and said, "We will always respect peace. But peace does not mean weakness." The aliens didn't understand the meaning at the time. They would later. Soon, strange stories began spreading across alien communication networks. Patrol fleets near human space started reporting ghost readings. Entire ships would vanish from radar for seconds at a time. Some claimed to see a shadow move past the stars, blocking light for just a moment before disappearing. Most didn't believe it. They said human ships couldn't possibly have stealth technology that advanced. But deep down, some of them began to worry. The first real sign came during a trade convoy near the border of human space. An alien ship fired a warning shot at a small human freighter, claiming it had crossed into restricted territory. The freighter didn't respond. The aliens laughed and prepared to seize it, but before they could, their scanners went dark. Everything turned silent. No signals, no visuals, nothing. For nearly a full minute, their systems froze. When power returned, the human ship was gone, and the alien captain swore he saw a faint ripple in the stars before the silence returned. Word of that spread quickly. Some called it a myth, others called it human propaganda, but those who had seen it with their own eyes refused to speak publicly. They were too afraid. Meanwhile, on Earth, the team behind the eclipse continued refining its design. The first ship had proven the concept. Now more were being built in orbit, not for war but as guardians. Humanity wasn't seeking conquest. They only wanted freedom to grow without being mocked, without being treated as inferior. Even though the world governments argued about policies and politics, there was one thing everyone agreed on: humanity needed to protect its place among the stars. Out in space, human stations grew larger. Colonies became cities. Children were born under alien suns, growing up with stories of Earth, stories about the blue planet that refused to kneel. For them, the galaxy's laughter was a memory, not a present reality. Still, tensions continued to rise. The council called several meetings accusing humans of hiding technology. They demanded inspections, but Earth refused. "Our systems are ours," said the envoy. "We've earned our progress." That calm defiance spread across the galaxy. For the first time, aliens began to sense something different in the human voice: confidence. The arrogance that once filled the council's halls began to crack. Behind their smiles, alien leaders whispered to each other about rumors of a cloaked warship that no scanner could find, of humans traveling undetected through their space, gathering knowledge they shouldn't have. Some alien admirals wanted to confront Earth directly. Others warned them not to. "We don't know what they've built," one said quietly during a secret meeting. "If they can disappear from our systems, then they've already changed the game." And he was right. One night, above the rings of Saturn, a group of alien ships appeared without warning. They began scanning a human mining colony, claiming they were checking for illegal activity. The workers on the colony sent distress calls to Earth, but no help was nearby. At least that's what everyone thought. Just as the alien ships prepared to seize control, the stars behind them dimmed slightly, like a shadow had passed across the void. For a moment, everything went silent. Then the alien ship's systems flickered. Alarms sounded. Their navigation screens went blank, and then a nothing. No sound, no explosion, no attack, just silence. When the systems came back online, the human colony was safe, untouched, and the alien ships had retreated without explanation. No one saw what had happened. Only a few blurry readings showed a faint distortion moving away into the darkness. After that day, alien fleets began to avoid human sectors. They told the public it was due to technical anomalies, but everyone knew the truth. Something was out there, something invisible, something human. Back on Earth, people went about their daily lives unaware of how close they had come to danger. But the ones who worked behind the scenes, the scientists, the pilots, the strategists, knew exactly what had happened. The eclipse had intervened. It didn't fire, it didn't threaten. It simply made its presence known in the most silent way possible. The message was clear. Humanity would no longer be mocked, pushed, or watched. The age of quiet observation was over. The galaxy's laughter began to fade. In its place grew a different kind of silence, one mixed with respect, curiosity, and fear. And yet, through all of this, humans stayed humble. They didn't boast or threaten. They simply continued building, learning, and expanding. Because humanity's goal was never to conquer the stars. It was to belong among them, proudly, equally, and freely. The aliens had spent years laughing at humans, but as their fleets moved farther from human space, they couldn't help but glance nervously into the empty dark, wondering if something unseen was watching them. And somewhere out in that darkness, the eclipse drifted quietly, a guardian wrapped in shadow, reminding the galaxy that silence was not weakness. It was patience. The tension in the galaxy had grown heavier with each passing year. What started as quiet suspicion had now turned into open fear. Alien leaders could sense something changing. They still smiled in meetings and spoke of peace, but behind closed doors their words were sharper, colder. They didn't laugh at humans anymore, but they still couldn't accept that Earth had become powerful enough to stand beside them. The Galactic Council decided it was time to remind humanity of its place. They sent a formal invitation for Earth's representatives to attend a high-level summit at the central world of Virelon, the heart of the galaxy's government. Every major power was going to be there. They called it a diplomatic meeting, but everyone knew it was something else, a test. The message was clear. Either Earth would follow the Council's rules or be shut out from trade, protection, and technology. It was a quiet threat hidden behind polite words. Back on Earth, the decision to attend wasn't easy. Many advised staying away, but the leaders agreed that walking into that room, even surrounded by arrogance, was necessary. They wanted to show the galaxy that humanity was not afraid. When the human delegation finally arrived at Virelon, the sight was overwhelming. The capital world was covered in silver towers that stretched into the clouds. Massive floating platforms carried alien ships the size of cities. Colors and lights danced across the skyline. It was a world built to show power, a place designed to make visitors feel small. The human ship was escorted through crowded airways, surrounded by fleets from dozens of species. Alien reporters broadcast the event live, describing the humans as ambitious newcomers seeking forgiveness. The tone was smug, confident, as if the outcome had already been decided. When the humans entered the council chamber, hundreds of alien eyes turned toward them. The hall was vast, echoing with whispers. Some looked curious, others disapproving, but most looked certain that the humans would bend under pressure. The council's leader, a tall figure with bright silver skin, stood and greeted them with a practiced smile. "We welcome Earth's delegation," he said, his voice smooth but cold. "We hope this meeting brings understandings and obedience." The word hung in the air. Obedience. It wasn't even hidden behind diplomacy. The human representative didn't flinch. He simply nodded and thanked the council for their invitation. The aliens exchanged amused glances. They thought humans were still trying to act polite to hide fear. The meeting began with long speeches. The council accused Earth of growing too fast, of expanding without permission, of building technologies that were beyond their right. They showed pictures of new human colonies, mining sites, and trading routes. Each image was presented like evidence in a trial. "You are reaching too far," one alien general said. "You are a young species. You must stay within your limits until you earn the right to go beyond." The room filled with murmurs of agreement. They spoke as if humanity was a group of children who had broken a rule. Then another alien, an old counselor from a powerful empire, leaned forward and said, "Let us be clear. The human colonies in Zone 9 and 12 are now under council supervision. They will be managed for your own protection. You may send supplies, but no warships, no defense systems. We will ensure peace." The words, "we will ensure peace," sounded like a cage closing. The humans remained silent, listening to each demand. They didn't interrupt, didn't argue. The council mistook the silence for weakness. Finally, when the last speech ended, the hall went quiet. The human envoy stood. The lights reflected off the polished floor as he looked around the room, at all the faces that had once laughed at his kind. He spoke softly, but his words carried across the hall. "When we came here the first time, you called us noisy. You said we were emotional, reckless, and foolish. You told us to listen and learn, and we did. We listened carefully. We learned everything." The council members shifted uncomfortably. The envoy continued, "You said we should stay within limits, but the stars have no borders. You claim to protect peace, but what you really protect is fear. Fear of change, fear of progress, fear of those who grow faster than you expect." A murmur spread through the hall. Some aliens frowned, others whispered. The council leader stood again, clearly annoyed. "Earth's representative, we have been patient. Do not mistake our kindness for weakness. Your people are not ready to challenge the laws of the galaxy." The human envoy smiled calmly. "We are not challenging your laws," he said. "We are simply reminding you that we exist, and that respect is earned, not granted." The council leader's tone grew harsher. "If you continue this attitude, Earth will lose all trade privileges. We will block your access to interstellar routes. Your colonies will be left defenseless." The envoy nodded slowly as if expecting that very threat. Then he pressed a small device on his wrist. A signal was sent silently through space, a single encrypted message that read, "Begin Phase 1. No one in the chamber noticed." The council leader went on speaking, his voice echoing through the hall, but the humans were calm. Their faces showed no fear. Moments later, the galaxy changed. In the skies above Viralone, hundreds of alien sensors began to flicker. Communication signals scrambled. Long-range scanners went blank. Military stations across orbit started sending alerts. Unknown interference detected. Visual distortion across the upper atmosphere. Inside the council chamber, a low hum echoed through the walls. Some thought it was a technical glitch. Others began to panic. The hall lights dimmed slightly. Then, on the large display behind the council seats, a live feed appeared. The view of the planet's orbit. For a few seconds, there was nothing but stars. Then, one by one, the stars began to fade behind something huge. At first, it looked like a shadow. But shadows don't move. Gasps filled the room as the massive shape drifted into focus. Not fully visible, but enough to see its edges, bending light like water. The hull shimmered in waves, half there and half gone. It was silent, motionless, and yet its presence filled the sky. The council chamber fell completely silent. The humans stood quietly, watching the faces around them. One alien general whispered, "Impossible." Another said, "No ship that size could appear undetected." The envoy finally spoke, his voice calm and steady. "You wanted to remind us of our place. Consider this your reminder." He didn't raise his voice. He didn't threaten anyone. But his words struck harder than any weapon. The alien leader turned pale, his silver skin dimming. What is that?" he stammered. The envoy looked up at the display. "A message," he said simply. "From Earth." Outside, the Cloaked Warship hung in orbit, larger than any known vessel. It made no move to attack, no signal of aggression. It just hovered silently like a ghost between light and darkness. Alien fleets scrambled to scan it, but every system failed. Their most advanced sensors returned nothing but static. Some readings even looped back as if the ship wasn't there at all. The humans didn't explain. They didn't boast. They simply stood in the silence that followed. Minutes passed. The tension grew unbearable. Then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, the warship began to fade. Its edges dissolved, light bent, and in seconds it vanished completely. The scanners went dead again. Empty. The council leader slumped back in his seat, speechless. The chamber, once filled with noise and confidence, now felt small and fragile. The human envoy gave a respectful bow. "We came here for peace," he said softly. "But peace built on fear is not peace. It's silence before the storm. Remember this moment not as a warning, but as understanding. We do not wish to fight, but we will never kneel." Without waiting for a reply, the delegation turned and walked out. The echo of their footsteps filled the hall that had once echoed with laughter. Outside, as the human ship departed Virelon, the council remained frozen. No one spoke for several minutes. The laughter that had once filled the galaxy was gone, replaced by a deep, uneasy quiet. Across the stars, alien leaders sent urgent messages to their fleets. Orders changed overnight. Patrols were withdrawn from human space. Treaties were rewritten, but humanity said nothing. They simply returned home, continuing their work in silence. The eclipse went back into the shadows, unseen once again. From that day onward, the galaxy knew that the humans were not to be mocked. They were patient, calm, and quiet, but their silence carried power. And though the warship had vanished, its memory remained in the eyes of everyone who had seen it. The laughter of the galaxy had ended, replaced by respect born not of fear, but of realization. Humanity had stepped from the shadows for only a moment, but that moment was enough to change everything. After the meeting at Virelon, the galaxy was never the same again. The council tried to pretend everything was normal, but everyone knew the truth. The balance of power had changed that day. The mysterious warship that appeared from nowhere, silent and unseen until it wanted to be seen, had shattered centuries of arrogance. It was the moment the galaxy realized that humanity had reached a level no one could fully understand. Across distant worlds, rumors spread like fire. Some said the human ship wasn't real, that it was only a hologram or a trick. Others swore they had seen it with their own eyes, its shadow blotting out stars. The story reached every colony, every trading post, every soldier's camp. "The humans built a ghost ship," they whispered. "It hides between light and darkness. You can't see it until it wants you to." Many laughed nervously at the rumors, but deep down no one truly laughed anymore. Not the way they used to. Because every time someone looked at the stars, they wondered, was it watching them right now, hidden behind the silence of space? Meanwhile, back on Earth, life continued quietly. People went to work, ships launched from ports, and colonies sent their reports. But behind all this normal life, there was a sense of pride. The news of what happened at Virelon reached every corner of humanity. For the first time in history, humans were not being looked down upon. They were being watched, with respect, even fear. Inside the hidden facility where the eclipse was built, the team that worked in secret for so long finally took a breath of relief. They had lived in silence for years, away from their families, keeping their work buried under false names and hidden projects. Now their creation had stepped into the open and made the entire galaxy stop and think. But not everyone was happy. Within the Galactic Council, a storm was brewing. Some members demanded immediate investigation. They called for proof that the ship existed. Others wanted to prepare defenses, afraid that Earth might use the technology against them. The council chambers that once mocked humanity were now filled with arguments and fear. "Humans are unpredictable," one of the alien generals said. "We should not wait for them to strike. We must be ready," but others argued differently. "They didn't attack," said another. "They could have destroyed us that day. But they didn't. Maybe they only want peace." That was the mystery haunting everyone. If humans had such power, why were they still quiet? Why didn't they use it? In the following months, small but strange events began to occur across the stars. An alien fleet patrolling near human space suddenly lost all communication for 6 hours. When the connection returned, they found themselves several light minutes off course with no memory of what happened. Another time, a research station reported seeing a brief shimmer outside their viewing window, a distortion in the stars, before their sensors shut down for a full minute. Each time, people whispered the same words, "the eclipse." The galaxy began to realize that the warship was not a myth. It was real and it could be anywhere, anytime. But Earth stayed silent. No announcements, no threats, no explanations. It was as if the ship had disappeared again, back into the deep quiet between worlds. The silence made it worse. Because silence leaves space for imagination, and imagination can be terrifying. Some alien nations began sending secret messages to Earth, asking for alliances or trade deals. They offered resources, protection, and technology. For the first time, they were asking instead of ordering. Humanity accepted only a few of them, carefully, quietly, never bragging, never showing off. On Earth, the mood was different. People didn't celebrate openly. There were no parades or speeches. Most of them didn't even know how close the galaxy had come to cornering their world. But deep down, they felt a quiet confidence. The world that once feared being conquered was now standing equal. In the Council's headquarters, however, the fear turned into obsession. The leaders gathered in secret to study human development. They wanted to know how such a young race could create a ship like the Eclipse. For centuries, the galaxy's greatest engineers had said that full cloak field technology on a battleship scale was impossible. It required too much power, too much precision, but somehow humans had done it, without sharing a word of it with anyone. One alien scientist, famous for his research in gravitational physics, spoke to the Council privately. "You don't understand," he said. "If they truly built what we think they did, then they have discovered something far beyond our knowledge. We have spent centuries studying how to bend light, but they may have learned how to bend space itself." That idea shook everyone. If true, it meant humanity was no longer behind and they were ahead. While the Council tried to uncover the truth, a quiet meeting took place on Earth. It was held in a hidden room beneath the Central Command facility. The people gathered there were not politicians or soldiers. They were scientists, engineers and thinkers who had built the Eclipse. Their leader, a calm and serious man, stood before them and said, "We showed them a glimpse and it was enough. They won't underestimate us again. But now we must be careful. Power means nothing if it brings fear instead of peace." He looked around the room, his voice steady but heavy. The Eclipse was built not for war but for survival. The galaxy is vast and we are still small compared to it. We can't afford pride. We can only afford unity. The others nodded. They understood. Their ship had already changed history, and now they had to protect the meaning behind it. Months passed. Slowly, trade between Earth and other planets resumed. Relations began to stabilize. But deep down, the galaxy still carried unease. Every new human transport that passed through alien space was watched carefully. Every satellite signal that flickered caused quiet panic in command centers. And yet nothing happened. Humanity didn't show the Eclipse again. It stayed hidden like a shadow in the distance. The only proof it had ever existed was the memory burned into the eyes of those who saw it appear above Virelion. That enormous, silent shape that had appeared out of nowhere and vanished just as suddenly. In time, stories began to grow. Some called it the Ghost Guardian. Others called it the Dark Shield. Children on distant planets whispered tales about how humans had built a ship that could walk between stars. But humans themselves never spoke about it. They only smiled when asked. And that quiet confidence made the galaxy even more uneasy. Because it's easy to fight someone who boasts. It's harder to face someone who doesn't need to. A year after the Virelion summit, the Galactic Council sent a new message to Earth. This time, a genuine peace proposal. It offered joint research projects, open trade, and an official recognition of humanity as a full and independent member of the Council. It was their way of admitting what everyone already knew. Earth had become one of them, whether they liked it or not. When the message reached Earth, people were silent. The world's leaders gathered and discussed for days. Finally, they agreed to accept, not with celebration, but with quiet dignity. The human representative sent a short reply. "We accept peace and partnership. We believe in understanding, not control. Let this be the start of something better." The Council approved the new agreement. For the first time in history, the galaxy stood as equals. But while the diplomats celebrated, somewhere deep in space, a hidden ship drifted in silence. The Eclipse remained cloaked, unseen, its dark hull reflecting the starlight. Inside, only a few lights glowed, and the soft hum of power filled the air. It watched quietly, always ready, always unseen, not as a weapon, but as a guardian, because humanity had learned a truth that no one else understood yet. Real power was not about who could destroy the fastest, but who could remain calm when everyone else trembled. The laughter that once echoed through the galaxy was gone forever. In its place was respect, and a quiet, shared understanding that the age of underestimating humanity had ended. And so, the eclipse returned to its endless watch, hidden among the stars, waiting patiently for the day it might be needed again, not to frighten, but to protect, because sometimes the greatest strength lies not in showing your power, but in knowing when not to use it. Years passed quietly after the day the eclipse appeared above Virelon. The galaxy, which once laughed at humanity, now spoke of them with a mix of wonder and respect. The name Earth carried weight wherever it was heard. It was no longer just a small blue planet in a forgotten corner of space. It was a symbol of patience, resilience, and mystery. The Galactic Council tried to move forward as if things were back to normal. But deep down, everyone knew that the order of things had changed forever. There were no more jokes about humans being reckless or primitive. There were no more speeches about how they should learn their place. Instead, there was silence whenever the subject of Earth came up, a silence filled with quiet admiration and a little fear. Trade between Earth and the rest of the galaxy flourished. Human-built ships now traveled through worlds that had once refused to allow them entry. Alien merchants came to Earth for the first time, amazed at the progress that had been made in such a short time. They saw cities rising from oceans, colonies thriving on moons, and people working together without fear. But what amazed them most wasn't the technology. It was the spirit of the humans themselves. Even after being mocked and pushed aside for years, they didn't carry hatred. They greeted visitors with smiles. They shared knowledge. They helped rebuild places affected by war or famine. Humanity had power, but they used it with restraint. The eclipse was never seen again. Many in the galaxy wondered if it even still existed. Some said it had been dismantled after its mission was complete. Others whispered that it was still out there, watching quietly from the darkness. But Earth never confirmed or denied anything. Only a few people truly knew the truth. Deep beneath the surface of Earth, in a hidden command center, the ship still waited. Its systems were alive, silent, and ready. The engineers who maintained it worked in quiet dedication, knowing that their creation wasn't a weapon of war, but a promise, a reminder that peace could only exist when strength was guided by wisdom. One evening, as the sun set over Earth's capital, a small group of representatives gathered in a quiet room. They weren't there to discuss politics or power. They were there to talk about something greater, the future of humanity's purpose among the stars. One of them stood by the window looking out at the glowing horizon. "For so long we tried to prove ourselves," he said softly, "to show them that we were not weak, not foolish. But now that they see it, what do we do next?" Another replied, "We do what we've always done. We move forward. Not to rule, not to dominate, but to learn, to explore, to bring light where there is still darkness." There was a moment of silence as everyone thought about those words. It wasn't pride they felt, but responsibility. The galaxy had begun to look up to humanity, not as conquerors, but as a species that carried hope. Soon after, a new project began on Earth. It wasn't a weapon or a fleet. It was something much more meaningful. They called it the Horizon Initiative. Its goal was simple: to reach the places no one else dared to go, forgotten worlds, abandoned systems, and regions of space where even the most advanced civilizations had given up. The people who joined the project weren't soldiers. They were explorers, scientists, and dreamers. They wanted to bring connection where there was isolation. It was humanity's quiet way of showing that power could be used for creation, not destruction. When the news spread, many alien nations offered to join. At first, their offers were hesitant, almost uncertain. But when Earth agreed and welcomed them as equals, their hesitation disappeared. For the first time, the galaxy saw true cooperation between species that had once distrusted each other. Together, they built new stations, repaired broken habitats, and revived dead colonies. The sight of humans working beside alien engineers and scientists became common. Slowly, the walls of division began to fade. But despite the new peace, there were still a few who remembered the past, the old empires that had once ruled with arrogance. Some of them felt threatened by the new unity that Earth inspired. They held secret meetings, whispering that the humans had too much influence. Yet even their jealousy couldn't undo what had begun. Because the galaxy had seen something that couldn't be unseen. The strength of kindness, the courage of restraint. One day, deep in space, a strange event occurred. A distress signal was detected from beyond the known borders of the galaxy. The message was faint, broken and ancient, so old that no one could identify its origin. Many dismissed it as an echo from a long-dead civilization, but Earth didn't ignore it. The Horizon Initiative decided to investigate. A small fleet of exploration ships set out on the long journey, moving far beyond the regions charted by any map. Days turned into weeks and weeks into months. The deeper they traveled, the stranger space became. Energy readings twisted, signals bent, even time itself felt slower. And then one night the lead ship detected something enormous drifting in the dark. It wasn't a planet or an asteroid. It was a structure ancient and broken, covered in dust and silence. As they approached, the ship's systems flickered, as if something unseen was watching. They realized it wasn't just debris. It was a relic of a lost civilization, far older than anything the Council had ever recorded. The message they received earlier had come from this place, a dying signal from a time before history. The humans and their alien companions worked together to uncover it. Inside they found records, faint holograms and symbols that told a story of a race that had once ruled the stars, but vanished when they turned their power against each other. It was a warning written in silence. Power without unity, knowledge without compassion, that was how they had fallen. When the humans returned and presented their findings to the Council, the hall was filled with quiet. No one argued. No one mocked. Everyone understood. That discovery reminded the galaxy that strength alone could never guarantee survival. Only understanding could. From that day onward, Earth became known as the bridge between worlds, not because of its power, but because of its heart. The humans had done what no empire ever managed. They had turned fear into friendship. The eclipse remained hidden, but it was no longer just a symbol of power. It was a guardian of peace, a reminder of where humanity had come from and how far it had gone. In time, the stars themselves seemed calmer. Fleets that once prepared for war now carried food, medicine, and supplies. New alliances formed, not out of fear but respect. And somewhere in the deep void, the eclipse still drifted, cloaked and silent, watching over the galaxy it had once frightened. Its hull shimmered faintly as if breathing with the rhythm of the universe itself. Inside, a single line was engraved on the command console, words written by the first team who built it. "We do not seek to rule the stars. We seek to understand them." Generations passed, but that message endured. Children across different worlds grew up hearing stories of the day the humans showed their hidden warship, and how, instead of using it to destroy, they used it to bring peace. To them, it wasn't a tale of fear. It was a lesson that even the smallest world could rise and stand tall, not through weapons, but through courage and wisdom. And in the quiet corners of space, when the night was still and the stars seemed to listen, some said they could see a faint glimmer, the outline of a massive ship moving silently among the constellations. Whether it was real or just imagination, no one knew. But for many, it was comforting to believe that somewhere out there, humanity's guardian still watched over them, unseen, unspoken, but always there. Because the truth was simple. The laughter had ended. The shadows had lifted, and humanity, once mocked, once doubted, had finally found its place among the stars, not as conquerors, not as rulers, but as protectors of light in an endless sky.